get started in just a couple minutes. Thank you.
不是的。
You're going as an expert, complimentary, and it's working home early. I know.
I gotta come back to you.
Sure. Anything else for you?
Some of this is healthy, yeah.